Another same moon, share the love. Embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy to beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. And we stand in love's pure light. Watching the world in love.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World 777. Tonight, there's a special presentation about Nancy Guthrie coming out of Tucson, Arizona. Channel 4, that's where they actually had an interview with me, so I'm quite familiar. And shout out to Andrew from Channel 4. But tonight, we're going to get right to it and see what's happening in regards to Nancy Guthrie. We're about 2 minutes out. As you come in, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. We have so many amazing people here already. You're far too kind to keep supporting the channel as we try to figure out what's happened with Nancy Guthrie. This case has everybody stumped. Yes, indeed. Everybody wants to know what's happening. So what you see on the screen above me is the countdown for Tucson, Arizona. A lot of people will be broadcasting this tonight, but I'm glad you guys are tuning in to watch it along with Watching the World 777. I hope everybody's having a great Saturday night and a good Sunday fast approaching. We're about a minute and a half away to see. Maybe we'll find out something more. We haven't really found any information that we can hang our hat on. But hopefully tonight we can look into this a little deeper. Perhaps they'll give us a few more clues when it comes to Nancy Guthrie. Shout out to Stella in the building. All right. Stella's welcoming. OG Kicks. All right. Ramona, welcome in. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Sharon's here as well. We have Titans Debate League. Shout out to you. Very good. Cindy. Cindy was the first in the... Okay. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you. You guys are amazing. We're just about a minute away from finding out what is this special information coming out of Tucson, Arizona, a place that I was recently at for over a week, covering this quite peculiar case. I left away not knowing much more than I did when I went out there. Took me about 11 hours to get to Tucson, Arizona. There's no straight flights from New York. There's only connecting flights. So we're counting it down, folks. As you come in, hit the like button, share, subscribe. We have to see what's happening tonight. And after it's over, perhaps we'll have a discussion. Maybe I'll bring a few people up. If you'd like to come up, put a globe in the chat, and I'll stick around long enough to bring you up, guys. Let's get to it. Thank you.
As the search for Nancy Guthrie continues, our community and the nation are rallying around her family to share messages of love and hope.
We have been praying from the start of this. It was just heart-wrenching just hearing about this.
Nothing really like this ever happens around here, so we're all praying.
A community united with one plea: bring her home.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us tonight for our special program, Bring Her Home, the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. I'm Sean Mooney.
And I'm Monica Garcia. We are 6 weeks into this deeply troubling mystery. Investigators say 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother of today's show co-host Savannah Guthrie, was taken from her home in the middle of the night. The case continues to shake our community and grip the nation.
Tonight, there are still no answers, no arrests, no motive, and no sign of Nancy.
Its sources close to the case tell us investigators aren't any closer to solving it. Nancy's daughter, Savannah, again on behalf of the family, reiterating an urgent plea for your help.
To bring her home.
If you've been waiting and you haven't been sure, let this be your sign to please come forward, tell what you know, and help us bring our beloved mom home. Please be the light in the dark.
And a light in the dark is just what this case needs. Let's start by taking you back to the beginning. Nancy was last seen the night of January 31st at her home near Skyline in Campbell. She was dropped off there by her son-in-law at 9:48 p.m. after having dinner with family. By midday Sunday, Nancy didn't show up to watch church service at a friend's home. Her friend called Nancy's oldest daughter, who called 911. What began as a missing persons search quickly turned into one of the most complex investigations our country has seen in years.
The Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos has given many interviews on the case, but this interview is a bit different. He takes us back to what he remembers about that day when she went missing, shares what's happened since, and has a message for the person or people who took her.
It started with a call.
Take me back to the night of Sunday, January 31st. When did you get the call that Nancy was missing?
My team had notified me of a missing person. Search and rescue was searching the area.
And we begin tonight with breaking news. The Pima County Sheriff's Department is looking for a missing woman tonight. Good evening.
And there were some concerns with what they were seeing at the scene.
And Skyline is where we are.
Investigators confirmed the missing woman was Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Savannah Guthrie, a name recognized across the country and deeply rooted in the Tucson community.
I don't even know that I knew it was the Guthrie family until probably closer to 6, 7 o'clock that evening.
Miss Guthrie is the mother of Today's Show anchor Savannah Guthrie.
Within hours, the investigation was expanding with the eyes of the nation watching.
FBI was plugged in that Sunday. Monday morning, we got a quick briefing. They had processed the scene, and we knew we needed some help.
After the public appeal,
We do, in fact, have a crime scene, that we do, in fact, have a crime.
Area right outside of Nancy Guthrie's house.
came press conferences, drawing hundreds of reporters.
We are aware of a ransom letter that was sent to the local media.
A tip hotline was created.
I thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom.
Billboards went up in several states, but the decision to clear the crime scene, followed by renewed searches in the weeks after, has drawn criticism.
A major focus all of a sudden on the house again.
Though Sheriff Chris Nanos says he stands by the work of his investigators.
Sheriff, looking back at this past month in the investigation, did it go the way you wanted it to go?
Yes, absolutely. Here's the thing. I think somebody said, well, Sheriff, did you regret this? Look, I have no regrets about my team and their efforts. I don't regret we let the crime scene go too soon or any of that. That's just silly.
New FBI recovery.
Then 10 days later, the biggest break in the case, doorbell video released showing a suspect
with what appears to be a gun at Nancy Guthrie's home the night of her disappearance.
Today, it remains one of the key pieces of evidence investigators are still leaning on. But it's not the only evidence detectives are analyzing.
Cell phone data, pings, cameras. I mean, how much are you guys leaning into that information, that evidence?
You know, it could be a cell tower dump, could be analyzing a cell phone.
So there is still digital evidence that you guys are waiting on to receive?
Well, we're analyzing all the time, yes.
The sheriff says investigators have gathered a lot of information. They're just not able to share much of it publicly right now.
If you could talk directly to the person who took Nancy, what is your message?
Give her up, let her go. Just let her go. Just take her to a clinic, a hospital, drop her off. Just let her go.
And you've seen these photos before. This is the person that Sheriff Nanos is referring to. The FBI released these stills obtained from Nancy's Ring camera of a masked suspect at her front door. They believe this individual is a man between 5'9" and 5'10". You can see he's wearing gloves and a ski mask, carrying a black Ozark Trail hiker pack, and has what appears to be a gun on his waistband. Take another good look at these shots. If you have any information, reach out immediately to 1-800-CALL-FBI.
For weeks now, you've heard about the evidence, the tips, and the rewards, all focused on finding Nancy. But we don't think you've heard enough about who Nancy Guthrie is. News for Tucson's Andrew Capasso sat down with some of the people who worked with Nancy and want you to know the impact she's had in our community.
A big part of Nancy Guthrie's life in Southern Arizona is anchored right here at the University of Arizona. From literally helping save thousands of lives over the decades to helping students in the communication industry.
I always think about Nancy as this quiet leader who was so effective without ever working at it. That's just the way she is.
Former professor Jacqueline Sharkey worked with Nancy for decades.
She always has had superb communication skills, and she used those to help lead a couple of very important public health and education initiatives that we worked on together.
One project the two worked on, saving the Poison Information Center at the U of A, the place on the chopping block due to budget cuts. Sharkey says Guthrie got right to work.
Gathered more than 20,000 signatures that were delivered to the governor, and the Poison Center was saved.
She says while the work was not easy,
this is in the pre-internet days. So we're talking about brochures and fact sheets and petitions that a small group of people took all over the state.
The impact of that work continues today.
Thousands of Arizonans have benefited from the Poison Center in the 30 years since Nancy had a major role in leading it.
That impact is something Dave Coulier says he's also experienced. He worked with Nancy on the School of Journalism's Advisory Council.
As a huge champion of journalism and the University of Arizona, she was looking out for everybody, all the graduates of the program, and frankly, of the whole university.
He says Guthrie put passion into every project she touched.
There are a lot of people who wanted to get involved for resume builders or certain ego trips and that sort of thing, but not Nancy. She had a quiet power. I mean, she wasn't the loud, talkative person in the room. She was the thoughtful person who provided input when it was needed.
Now, as the tribute to Guthrie grows outside her home, Sharkey says she is not surprised.
It's all a sign of how much Nancy means to us and the enormous impact she had on the community and on our lives.
An impact she says everyone from her Catalina Foothills neighborhood to the U of A and beyond can all learn from.
She's a role model for how to live a life filled with meaning.
And one other thing Sharkey told me, for Nancy, she says it has never been about the credit, but always about the people. Sharkey says that selflessness is precisely why Nancy's impact is felt so deeply across Tucson today. Reporting at the University of Arizona, I'm Andrew Capasso, News 4 Tucson.
And after hearing that story, it is easy to understand why Nancy's sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through our community.
3 days after she went missing, Nancy's daughter, Savannah, turned to social media asking everyone to pray. So that's just what Tucson did.
Most merciful God, we pray for our sister Nancy.
We needed a place to come together. And so a vigil popped into my head, and I know both Nancy and Savannah are very faithful, and I just feel like even if people don't pray, I feel like people want to do something. And if they can come together and share hugs and share stories, then that might make it a little easier.
Sally Shamrell helped organize the vigil. She says she met Nancy through her daughter, Savannah Guthrie, when the two were both young journalists at KVOA 30 years ago.
Welcome all of you who have come from the wider community for this vigil, for this time of prayer for Nancy.
Lupita Murillo is another former colleague who wanted to do something to send a message to the family that they weren't alone, and coming together was the way to do it.
Holding a vigil will make us feel like we're doing something positive. We're rallying around the family. We're asking God to please bring Nancy home.
Earlier in the week, Savannah had asked her social media followers to please pray.
We believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers.
And that's exactly what hundreds did at St. Philip's Church that night. They came from all over, many not knowing what to say, but others speaking out, praying for Nancy's return.
God is everything. I prayed for Nancy last night, and I assured her she's She's got this, she can do it, and we're behind her.
The church's pews filled with people holding candles, there to support the family and to pray for Nancy's return. Some who had never met her, and others who had known the 84-year-old for decades.
It's nice to show that Tucsonans are going to come out and support someone that the community loves.
And those two words, please pray, the plea sent out from Savannah Guthrie, certainly answered that night. Now, though, as the weeks have gone by, the faith shared that night and since remains as strong as ever. As Tucson continued their prayers, investigators continued their work to find Nancy. Sources say tips and cell phone pings led to raids conducted in both Rio Rico and Tucson. But they didn't give them the break they were hoping for. The first one, the night of February 10th, a man was detained in Rio Rico and questioned by investigators. Then on February 13th, police detained and questioned 3 people following a law enforcement operation near First Avenue and Orange Grove in the Shadow Hills neighborhood. No arrests were made in either operation. Evidence analysis in the Guthrie case has also proven to be futile so far. On February 11th, the first black glove was found in a field about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. On the 17th, the DNA was entered into a national database, CODIS, but came back with no matches. Then on March 4th, the DNA was traced to a restaurant worker who was not connected to the case. While that didn't bring any answers, detectives are still hoping surveillance video will. They're concentrating on this zone you see right here, bound by Campbell Avenue, Ina Road, La Cholla Boulevard, and River Road. If you live in that area and have video that shows anything out of the ordinary, you can find a link to share it with investigators on our website at kvoa.com/Nancy Guthrie. And as investigators continue to work the case, outside Nancy's home, a shrine in her honor continued to grow. It started with a simple sign, "Dear Guthrie family, your neighbors stand with you." And over the next few days, the messages of hope and prayer continue to grow, along with candles and flowers. Among the chaos in front of the home and up and down the neighborhood street, the signs and other items, a constant reminder of the reason for it all.
We're praying to God that she is going to be returned to her family and she is safe and she's well. That is God's wishes, to have her return to her family back to Tucson.
Neighbors enduring the interruption in their daily lives in their once quiet Foothills neighborhood. Many stopping by now to show their support.
I just came to bring some flowers in support of Nancy and the Guthrie family, to show that we're coming together as a community.
But others coming from beyond Tucson to bring their message of hope for Nancy's return.
I live in Arizona, Mesa, and I came down to pay my respects. I'm still praying for Nancy's safe return.
All of those heartfelt messages heard and felt deeply by the Guthrie family. Savannah and her sister Annie, along with her husband Tommaso Cioni, returning to the neighborhood on March 2nd to meet with neighbors, to thank them for their continued love and support throughout the search for Nancy. The 3 stopping by what has become a street-side shrine, representing the many praying for Nancy's return. Savannah and her sister carrying yellow flowers, overcome with emotion as they looked at the hundreds of messages and tributes left behind to honor their mom. That neighborhood display remains a reminder of the never-ending support the Tucson community and people around the world have for Nancy Guthrie. And what investigators and the Guthrie family believe is that your tips are critical to finding Nancy. Tens of thousands of tips have already poured in from across the country, but we're still looking for that one clue that will break this case. The reward for Nancy Guthrie's return now tops $1 million. Much of that came from her family. But Michael Hoopy, a lawyer from Wisconsin, added $100,000 of his own money. The FBI says they alone have received more than 25,000 tips, and at last report, 88 Crime reports receiving nearly 2,600 tips. Both are looking for more help to solve this case, and here are those tip lines again.
And at the heart of Nancy's disappearance is her family and her close friends. The heartbreak and desperation they are living through right now is felt in every message and video they posted to social media. They expected the national media to swarm Tucson once word got out about Nancy's case, but what came with it was a destructive group of profiteers, and the collateral damage has been far-reaching.
Call the cops on you and get you cited. Get out of here. For 6 weeks, Nancy's neighbors witnessed firsthand the media taking over their neighborhood.
At members of the media, hundreds of people. I tell you, it keeps growing out here.
Journalists reporting on the daily updates of the case, but soon came a different group of people causing chaos in our town. From pizza deliveries to a crime scene to people showing up for photo shoots outside of Nancy's home. People even asking to sit at the same table the Guthrie family sat at when they were together at a restaurant last fall. Local leaders say these scenarios didn't just cross the line, it may have made things worse.
I wish that there were, we stopped having these sort of people that have a following in media platforms acting as if they are investigators. I do think that it is hurting the investigation.
Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva says in at least one case, a name shared during a live stream led to threats.
He was threatened, his family was threatened because they heard by a reliable source.
Then came the false accusations directed at members of the Guthrie family and friends, blatantly accusing some of them of being involved in Nancy's disappearance in the midst of their most intense time of grief.
People that, in my view, have taken sort of a shameless, shot across the bow of decency for this community, for those families.
These kinds of erroneous reports, comments, and posts have damaged reputations and are ruining the lives of innocent people. One of them, local band member and family friend of the Guthries, Dominic Evans, told the New York Times his life has been turned upside down after being linked to the case.
The typical consequence for a journalist that has defamed someone is the news station or newspaper gets sued. If they lose, an insurance company for that journalist is going to have to pay a judgment. You can't successfully sue YouTube itself or Facebook itself because there's federal law that protects that platform.
With both platforms and those creating content on them hard to hold accountable, the damage their content may cause can be immediate and lasting.
Horrifically damaging to people that are falsely accused, for example. Why? Well, in the modern age, you now have a scarlet digital letter, right? There may be vigilante justice, people giving out your home address, your phone number, your loss of privacy.
And unfortunately, these reckless reports continue to this day. They have devastated the Guthrie family and their friends, adding to their pain.
Even in the midst of all of this, there have been moments of light, though. One of them, a call to our newsroom from a woman compelled to help. News 4 Tucson's Robbie Reynolds joins us now with that story.
It all started with one yellow ribbon, and then dozens more, handmade and sent to Tucson, the woman who made them, calling them ribbons of hope. And they're already being worn by employees here at El Charro, where Nancy Guthrie had lunch with her daughters just 5 months ago.
Yellow ribbons, a symbol of hope.
I was saying we just hope that it brings awareness to the public, to just as media slows down, to remember to keep a watchful eye and ear out, and just to remember that she's still missing.
For Melanie, it's a labor of love. She and her friend Regina started making ribbons in 2003 when Lacey Peterson, a pregnant California mom, went missing. They made more when Natalie Holloway disappeared, and for others, until it became too much for two people.
I've been praying through every ribbon I make for answers.
Compelled by Nancy's story, Melanie started making ribbons again, and she sent the first batch to us here at the station. Word of the ribbons coming to Tucson touched Ray Flores, the president of Flores Concepts and C. Charro. We gave his restaurant family the first shipment. This is the first time Flores has spoken publicly since Nancy's disappearance.
When we realized it wasn't just a simple lost person issue, the severity of it really kind of hit home because she had just been here a couple months before with Savannah filming an episode for the Today Show.
While he didn't know Nancy personally, Flores says he saw the closeness between her and her girls in his restaurant the day of the shoot.
You could tell they were a very loving family, and whenever you have that kind of pain hit, it does. It affects you because you can feel it in your own community, in your own heart.
For his employees, Ray says wearing Melanie's ribbons offer hope and remind us that Nancy is still out there, along with others that are missing. He believes as a community, we can all help by remaining vigilant, and he wants to emphasize that for both English and Spanish speakers.
If you see something, say something. Si ves algo, diga algo.
Omar works at El Charro and was there when the Guthries visited in October. He and other El Charro workers support the ribbon campaign.
We're still supporting them and we're still thinking about them every single day. We have a lot of people coming through here, so the more awareness we can create, the better.
And that awareness is already starting to spread among El Charro's customers.
It's a great program to have that, to stay united, to create something positive of something that's actually very sad.
A small ribbon that has the capacity to make a big difference.
If we can communicate a message of hope, then that's the only and best tool for all of us to be part of.
Employees at all the Charro restaurants will soon be wearing these yellow ribbons of hope. As more on the way, Melanie has already made a second batch and they will be distributed throughout our community. Reporting from El Charro downtown, Robbie Reynolds, News 4 Tucson.
And from yellow ribbons of hope to the bonding between neighbors.
More than 6 weeks after Nancy disappeared, her Catalina Foothills neighbors say they've been leaning on each other for support. News 4 Tucson's Andrew Capasso joins us from there now with that story.
The most striking difference here outside Nancy Guthrie's home is the silence. Just weeks ago, this street would be lined with headlights and taillights. But now, while most of those news cameras are gone, the people who live in this neighborhood say it is forever changed.
This is a very safe, bucolic, beautiful place.
For 6 years, Jeff Lamy has called this Catalina Foothills neighborhood home. But he says what happened at this house, not far from his, has shaken everyone here.
I think it's disconcerting that this occurred, obviously, and we're so concerned about the family and supporting that family.
And thinking more about how to keep safe, both at their own homes.
Maybe people are more apt to lock their door or ensure that that camera is operational, you know, that you've charged that battery.
And as a community.
There's been talk of reinvigorating a neighborhood watch.
But beyond those measures, many people who live in this neighborhood have been doing important work to help find Nancy. What you may not know is a network of neighbors here have played an integral role throughout this investigation, working behind the scenes to gather camera footage from each other's homes, cross-referencing that footage and getting it to law enforcement. It's part of a neighborhood action group which formed early on in Nancy's disappearance. One member of the group tells us that's our recipe. So far, we haven't found Nancy, but we can help law enforcement by being targeted. We let them decide what is actionable. The group continuing their work, they call it the recipe for being helpful.
The best thing you can do for safety is create awareness, create connection with neighbors.
One neighbor who asked us to protect her identity says what happened to Nancy is bringing neighbors closer.
There's a sense of what now out here. We need to rely on each other, and I've seen a lot of that in these past few weeks. More checking up on people and more making sure everyone's okay.
She says it's helping the neighborhood heal.
Before this, we didn't know each other. Now we know a little more about each other and we know we're in this together.
Something Lamy says is critical.
Absolutely. You know, it's a silver lining to a very dark cloud.
While hoping for the answer to questions so many are desperate for. What happened and why?
Because this was a shocking event.
And there is still a lot of healing to be done here. And neighbors say they're still fearful, and they will continue to be until they get answers in this case. Reporting in the Catalina Foothills, I'm Andrew Capasso, News 4 Tucson.
Thank you, Andrew. For our team here at News 4 Tucson, the story hits home. As we've told you, Savannah Guthrie is part of the News 4 Tucson family, having worked here as a news anchor on her way up to becoming the host of the Today Show.
Reporting on the disappearance of her mom has not been easy. Like the rest of the community, we wanted to find a way to show the Guthrie family our love and support and to provide a place for you to send a message of your own. We never expected the impact our tribute would have.
Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock, trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help.
Bring her home. Part of a message Savannah Guthrie posted on social media. It was a direct plea to those who were involved in her disappearance to let her go. But it was also a call for others to keep praying for Nancy's return. Those three words becoming the theme of the banner. We weren't quite sure how the community would react, but soon they started to come. Some to sign the banner, leaving messages of hope and support. Others leaving flowers and candles, each expressing their concern and love in their own way.
Our hearts are in it, and she's always on our mind. So the candles right here, the heart we made, all the names on the candles, to me, it's showing hope, it's showing love, and it's showing humanity.
And all coming by for the same reason.
Just to show my presence and support so the family knows that they're not alone and there are people that do care.
And for many, without even having met the Guthries, they still feel connected.
It doesn't cost to care for people, and I care for the Guthries. They're from here. Savannah grew up here. They're ours.
And now, as the days have turned into weeks since the search began, keeping hope alive is more important than ever.
Hopefully, by doing this, it's still showing people out there that we care. It's showing people out there that just because the sheriff's not at the house anymore, just because there's not a whole group of people at the house, or you don't see stuff all over town anymore, we're not forgetting Nancy.
And tonight, the Guthrie family has a message for you, Tucson.
We are deeply grateful for the outpouring from neighbors, friends, and the people of Tucson. We are all family now. We continue to believe it is Tucsonans and the greater Southern Arizona community that hold the key to finding resolution in this case. Someone knows something. It's possible a member of this community has information that they do not even realize is significant. We hope people search their memories, especially around the key timelines of January 31st and the early morning hours of February 1st, as well as the late evening of January 11th. We desperately ask this community for renewed attention to our mom's case. Please consult camera footage, journal notes, text messages, observations, or conversations that in retrospect may hold significance. No detail is too small. It may be the key. We miss our mom with every breath, and we cannot be in peace until she is home. We cannot grieve. We can only ache and wonder. Our focus is solely on finding her and bringing her home. We want to celebrate her beautiful and courageous life, but we cannot do that until she is brought to a final place of rest. Thank you for continuing to pray without ceasing. The Guthrie family. Cameron and Christine, Annie and Tommaso, Savannah and Michael.
An emotional plea exclusive for News 4 Tucson. A family grateful for your love and support while desperate to find their mom. A reminder that you can find those links to calling your tips at the numbers at the bottom of your screen.
Like you, we were all hoping, we're holding on hope as a community. We can all work together to help bring Nancy home. From all of us at News 4 Tucson, good night.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in for this event. Do you feel like you know anything more than you knew before? Let's get to some of the comments. I noticed, they kind of took, they targeted some of the streamers for being out there. But in a case like this, you need all eyes on deck, all hands on deck. So I was shocked to see that this was in this video, right? It's quite interesting. Billy says, what did she see? Do we know? Okay. Good question. Good question. What did she see? What does that mean? Jam says, thank you, Mel. Good night. All right. Nice to have you here. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. Stella says, like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications to be notified for upcoming shows. Thank you guys so much. All right, we have A in the building, Asia. Okay, thank you very much. New Jerseyan, thank you. Welcome in and press the thumbs up at the top of the screen. That helps to push the channel. Let's see. Country Carpenter says, great show, Mel and all. Okay. I want to ask you guys a few questions before you take off. Do you think at this point, and even after watching this presentation, again, I'm a little disturbed. I noticed you guys noticed they showed my cell phone. That was my cell phone that they showed when they were talking about the streamers. So I guess they gave me a pass. But at any rate, I just find that intriguing that they would do that when the lady hasn't been found. It seemed like everybody should be focused on finding her instead of pointing fingers of who came out to cover the case. In most cases, especially now, you would still want people to cover this case, even from afar. Many of us are. Like tonight, there's so many streamers covering this. And look, we have close to 400 people here bringing awareness to the case. So it is what it is, folks. But put a 1 in the chat if you think that this is tied to her family or friends, like this was an inside job, or put a 2 if you think this was totally someone that was stalking her, maybe had nothing to do with her daughter, but just someone that picked up on Nancy, maybe a construction worker from the local area. We tend to think it might be something like that because there's no car, no vehicle to date, right? Or put a 3 if you just think it was something associated with her daughter, and this is some type of money grab or even some sort of revenge. Let's see what everybody has to say in regards to this particular case. Let's see. All right, let's see. Okay, we're getting a lot of 1s. Okay. Wow, we're getting a lot of 1s. A lot of people feel like this is someone close to her, like a family member or friends. Wow. Okay. Even at this point, a few people feel like it was someone that picked up on Nancy, perhaps from the neighborhood. Okay. And then we even have some that think it's associated with her daughter, Savannah, with all that happened with her career. And there's so many people that follow her. She is definitely one of the best to do it when it comes to the morning show. So I can understand why you guys feel that way. Let's get to, we have so many distractions about this case now, and I don't understand why. Now all of the attention is on other people and people's personal lives instead of staying focused on the target when it comes to this particular case. With this presentation, I felt it was okay though, but I felt they could have stayed away from pointing fingers, but it is what it is. James says the pacemaker uploads around that time. Could it try to upload and fail? I think the timeline is off. Okay. Thank you, James. Thanks for your insight in regards to this matter. Lisa says she has no clue. Okay. Billy says a granny implies family did it. A construction worker has money for it's like $50. Okay. A granny implies family did it. A construction worker has money for cat. It's okay. It's like $50. Okay, thank you for your comment, your expression. Trying to understand that further. Kendra says revenge with Savannah. I've heard that scenario a lot. A lot of people feel like maybe perhaps it could be that too. User says the reason is because, oh, and I lost the comment. I don't know what happened. I'll check it here. The reason is because there was nothing taken in the home. Do we actually know that there was nothing taken? Because there's so much information that the sheriff has not provided for us, right? Do we have any inkling or clue whether or not the person took anything? I saw earlier where we have an attorney on deck, James. James had pointed out the person came with a full backpack. So if you come with a full backpack, it's like going to a meal with a full stomach. How could you be there to take more things, right? So that's a good point. Great question. We have Psalm 91 in the building. Good evening. Okay, thanks. Nice to have you here. Lisa says we need more information. That is so true. Christina of the Woods, thanks for subscribing to the channel. Says it's hard to believe the timeline. I agree. Okay, so you agree with James. Okay, Curtis says, hey, Mel, great work. Thank you. We try so hard. Barbara says, good night. I think it's someone close to her. Okay, so a lot of people feel still. Every day I still hear about the same narrative that went out early in this case in regards to perhaps a really close family member had something to do with this. For those of you that are just coming in, we're covering Nancy Guthrie's case. I actually went out to Tucson, Arizona. I was boots on the ground. As you can see, we were featured somewhat in that presentation talking about some of the streamers, independent media that came out to cover the case. And, I think a lot of people are just not used to it. Here in New York, you're pretty much defined by your press pass. Okay, so if you have a press pass, you can have access. There's not a lot of questions beyond that. But throughout the world and throughout the country, not everybody is totally used to that. So I can understand why there's such pushback in regards to this case. Christina says, unfortunately, I think them being famous has hindered things. They are too worried about offending them versus giving helpful and possibly upsetting info that could help the public find her. Okay, good point. The sheriff in this particular case is taking on a lot of heat, and a lot of people are pointing fingers. They're trying to actually take actions to recall him because they feel that he is very instrumental, perhaps, in not resolving this case and not perhaps working with the FBI. We've heard so many different rumors. There's so much confusion when it comes to this case, and a lot of us are just still trying to figure out what can be done to bring Nancy Guthrie home. That's the big question that everybody wants to know. I want to show you guys something here. Let's see if I can get this to play. Okay, here we go. So what we're going to do real quick for those that are new here, we're going to go through this video and we're going to go through a few of the highlights and some of the points, and perhaps we could discover a few things we haven't seen before. And thank you guys for all the comments. Please hit the like button, share, and subscribe, as we will continue to read through the comments to see what you guys have to say in regards to this case, okay? So, first off, I want to make sure that this video is showing at its largest capacity. So let's see. Don't want to do that. Let's see if we can get... Okay, maybe that's a little better. I'm trying to get the best frame here. Okay, so we'll stick with this here. All right, so we're going to start off. Notice the background first off in this particular video. Okay, so notice the skyline. You see in the very back, you see those lights. Some people have said that that's a car. Well, being boots on the ground, that's actually a house, because I was there. And where we were standing, it looks like there's a straight pole there. There's a road right straight away from her door. If you were to walk straight across her yard, you would continue onto the street and up the hill, up another street, okay? And that's where we were basically filming from a lot of the time, okay? So that's a house. While I was there, I saw the marshal's sheriff's office. They went to knock on some of those doors, okay? So we're going to keep going. Okay, so you see this guy approaching, okay? Approaching her front door. At the very bottom corner, you can see her deadbolt, and you could also see that she had a keyed doorknob, okay? So you see those if you look at the very bottom right hand of your screen. Notice this individual, they have on these gloves, right? They have on a backpack that appears to have some sort of reflectors right at chin level. So you can see actually both here, but mostly the right side, this person's right shoulder, you can see the reflector. The person has on a ski mask, okay? All right. We can't really discern the colors because it is a night camera and so forth. I'm going to back up a little bit. Notice the shoes on the individual. That's going to be important as we go further. Tell me what you think in the comments section. What do you notice about the shoes? It's important to get that down as before we move forward. What color are the shoes? Are they two-tone? And if they do have black on them, let's define now where you see the black at on the shoes. Is the black on the sole of the shoes? Or do you guys think the shoes are white? Do they appear to be white? Just give us a little comment to tell us what you see. It's going to be very important moving forward as we break down the video. Okay. All right. So the person walks up. Now, keep in mind, folks, the mat is right there by the front door. Okay. The mat's by the front door. And when I was there, boots on the ground, the mat was still there. So for some reason, the police officers or the FBI never removed the mat. Do you ever see those shows? You ever see the First 48 where sometimes a person, perhaps they had a dog, right? And they track the dog poop to a crime scene, and then they are able to tie the person because of dog poop. These weird scenarios that come about because people are tracking things about or what have you. The person, as you're going to see in a few shakes, they have a flashlight in their mouth, right? A bite light is what they typically call it. Perhaps the person dropped DNA. We don't know, but if for whatever reason, they did not remove this mat. Also, what's important to notice at this particular point, there is no blood droplets on the towel. So make sure you take a note of that because as you know, when you look at the crime scene, you see the droplets of blood. A lot of people are saying, well, maybe because we have to look at the timeline. If you go back to 9:48, that's the time they said that the son-in-law had dropped her off. Now, this is the front of the house. As I was there, boots on the ground, the front driveway is a circle. It's a loop, right? It's a half circle. But over to the left-hand side, right? If you were to walk straight out of this foyer area to the left and go around, that's where her garage is, the garage door, okay? So we assume that if she went in through the garage, she was dropped over to the left, okay? Next time I break it down, I'll have more pictures and mapping to help you understand. But at 9:48, that's roughly the time that she was dropped off. The garage door opened at 9:48. It closed 2 minutes later. And so we're under the assumption that she walked in. I think the son-in-law said that they at one of the press conferences, they asked the sheriff, did the family member see her in? And he said, yes. Does that mean the person walked her in? We don't know. But a lot of people are also coming up with these typical conclusions saying, well, maybe when the person dropped her off, there was a guy that ran into the garage with her, was with her, and then this guy comes up later. To me, it sounds like a stretch based on some of the things that we've heard. And the sheriff confirmed that the son-in-law actually saw her get in. Okay, so typically, some of the neighbors, while I was boots on the ground, said that she walked with a cane and that she was basically barely, moving. She wasn't, like a young person. She was, you know, trying to get to the mailbox. Sometimes she had to stop and take a break. This is what some of the neighbors were saying. So we imagine if she was at that level, perhaps the family member would see her in. I think a lot of people would be used to that. But let me tell you something after being there, boots on the ground. Give me 1 second. One thing I learned by talking to the neighbors being boots on the ground and why you can't just look at a scenario and say, well, this is the way I do it, so everybody has to do it that way. Let me explain. The neighbors, I heard about 3 different neighbors talk about how they never really locked their doors in that neighborhood. In fact, one lady walked up with her husband. She says, my parents, the father had passed away and the mother is in a nursing home, but they had lived in this neighborhood 50 years. And the mother would never lock her garage, never lock the doors. They never had a problem. So if you get a person in a neighborhood that long, they figure, well, why start now? Okay, so that kind of refutes the idea of people saying, well, she would never had a door unlocked, because everybody, if you live in New York and you leave your door unlocked, you're asking for trouble. Every state is different, every place is different. But for me, when I heard that, I'm like, man, you don't lock your doors? Jeez. Elderly people tend to check the doors. They'll lock the doors. And if you're ever around an older person, they'll say, hey, did you check the doors? Okay. I know my grandmother would always say, when you come home, instead of trying to unlock your door, she said, always check it first to make sure that someone's not waiting for you on the other side. So that's pretty smart, right? Typically, you come home, you just go right in. But what if the door is unlocked and you locked it? That might be an indication that something or somebody is waiting for you on the other side. So when it comes to Nancy Guthrie, I mean, we've heard different rumors about this particular case. I'm going to go back to the very beginning. They said the back door was left open. We heard that. That was reported. But here's the thing. When we went through the sheriff's press conferences, he gives us a discrepancy, and I'm not pointing fingers at the sheriff. I'm just pointing out some of the facts, okay? Earlier on, because we listened to about 4 different press conferences and also covered the first night when he's boots on the ground standing out there on the front. It looks like he's standing by the road based on what I saw. But he says that the family notified the police officers at 11 a.m. that she perhaps had an issue or missing, right? That's when the family reported it. But a couple days later, that same sheriff at a press conference, he said it was around, I think, 11:47 or something like that. So there's a gap there. When we try to understand when was she reported missing, okay? Now, earlier on in this particular case, we heard that she had went to church, or she was supposed to go to church. She didn't show up. Someone called the family, says, hey, she didn't show up to church. What's going on? The family went there. 11 o'clock, they reach out. Or we have a 47 or so minute difference, okay? Then a couple days went by and we heard a different story. And I'm speaking very loosely because we hear a lot of different stories. That she was supposed to, ever since COVID, instead of going to church, she would actually go over to perhaps a friend's house, or maybe they were meeting at a set location. But she didn't show up for that Zoom. I guess they were all, attending church together through like a Zoom, but not necessarily. I don't think they had the visual, but they would just listen together. Church folk always want to congregate with the brothers. A lot of people go back to Paul and Timothy where it says, do not, the gathering of people together. Do not forsake the gathering of one another together. I think that's in Timothy somewhere. Okay. So, people want to have the fellowship. So she didn't show up to that. Okay. And that's when the family received a call. To date, I don't think we've ever heard from the person that she was supposed to congregate with. Okay. So we kind of get an idea of 11 to 11:47. Then I think it was a little bit afternoon is when the police actually showed up to her house. We don't get a chance to fully understand if the family actually went into the house and looked around first, right? We don't really, that's one of the things, at least I haven't heard. Did they actually go in? Was anything moved? Now, I'll tell you why this is very important, okay? All right, you guys are still with me, so I'm going to keep on going, okay? All right. In the first ransom letter, now this is something that I've heard from many different angles, but again, I was boots on the ground. In the first ransom letter, it appears, I've heard this differently, but I've heard that the ransom letter mentions she had a white Apple Watch. And then later we heard through the grapevine, through one of the media sources, more independent, She's the only one I've heard to date that said the letter said the Apple Watch was at the foot of the bed. Okay? So the first ransom letter mentions an Apple Watch at the foot of the bed. Remember, in the final press conference, I think the fourth one on day 5, I think the federal agent said there were some things in that letter that were factual. Okay? Another thing that we heard is that the floodlight in the back of the property, it's a shame how much I know about this case. Man, oh man. That the floodlight at the back of the property was broken. Okay. So when I was boots on the ground, one of the first things I heard, right, before it came out in the media, I was told boots on the ground that on January the 11th, this person, this perp, shows up, and we're going to see this date allegedly here. And he went around back and broke the floodlight. Okay. And also that this still photo that we're going to see that came from January the 11th. Okay. So this is a rumor that I heard. And as I was leaving Tucson, maybe the next day, it actually came out in mainstream media. And then just last week, we kind of received an official confirmation that January the 11th is when the person did like a dry run. Perhaps they came to scope out the area. But then also within this last week, we also hear about the date of the 24th. So now it appears that this individual or individuals are showing up on Saturday nights. Why Saturday? Why Saturday nights? That's what the police want to know, right? That's what everybody wants to know. But that's another point that I picked up while I was there. But getting back to, if that's true, the floodlight is mentioned in the first letter. Her Apple Watch on the foot of the bed allegedly is mentioned. Okay. How would anyone know that? How would someone know that? So it appears that the first ransom letter has some credence, even though a lot of people are trying to say the first ransom letter was bogus. Remember, Harvey from TMZ also said, for whatever reason, the FBI is taking that first letter very seriously. I'm going to get to some of the comments too, but we're going to go through this tonight. We're going to slow walk it. Guys, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. We're going to try to get through this and break down some of the different points. I appreciate all the support, and there's so many different comments coming in. So think about this. If that first letter is correct, let me just tell you my personal thoughts on it. And it doesn't mean a hill of beans, as my grandfather used to say. It's just my thoughts, right? But if the first letter is actually true, which it appears to be some facts, the federal agent said that, okay? But we don't know. But there's a reason why he's saying that, okay? So if the first letter has some type of factual information, remember, it seems that these letters, there's something weird about the letter. I'm going to tell you. You get the first letter, you start to get the second letter. Remember, the first letter went to, I think, 2 local stations and also TMZ. So for whatever reason, this person really needed TMZ because they knew that would probably bring in the entire world, right? And that's what essentially happened. We get the entire world on this, right? Because of TMZ. It wasn't really the local. I think TMZ was the catalyst, okay? But what I found to be interesting is that when they started looking at local people, it felt like the heat was on. Remember, this person started writing letters saying, oh, I saw them in Mexico. So is that someone that's local trying to deter the authorities and say, no, don't look here. Like you're getting too close to me. Go look in Mexico. Okay. That's something to keep in mind. I don't know what it means. Okay. But it seemed like as we were approaching that date, in fact, the daughter, Savannah, came out and said, look, we're going to pay. Okay. I think they were asking for proof of life. Okay. But after that date, it seemed that now TMZ starts to get a new type of letter. Instead of trying to get ransom money, the same person, it seems like, is trying to get reward money. It's almost like, well, we need to try to get something out of this. That could just be my interpretation. but it just seems that there's a person or someone really writing a whole narrative here. I don't think it initially before I went out there, I felt like the ransom letters could have been a separate person over in Africa or China somewhere manipulating. But the more I've learned about the case, it seemed like one person wrote an entire story, right? This is almost like a drama movie, and all of these pieces are coming together when you really stop and look at this particular case, okay? So that's just something that I observed about these letters, because at first I thought they were totally bogus, but then I started to realize perhaps they're not, and perhaps that's a part of this whole thing, because it looks like someone really had a motive, but no one really knows what that motive is as of yet. So let's get back to the video, and then I'll get into this a little bit more. I want you guys, we're going to do this together. We have 350 people here, so we're going to do this together. I want you guys to tell me, does it look like this guy attempts to, or it could be a woman right now? See, here's the other problem with this case. We kept hearing about DNA, DNA, DNA. Now we don't know. And initially, because of the DNA, people felt like, oh, this is a man, okay? But if you go online, especially women, and women are very smart, very intelligent, right? Women are saying, this is a woman, you know? We have to pause. We got to let that sink in. We don't know. It looks like a man. I think when they asked the sheriff, he kind of alleged that this is a man, but there's no definitive DNA. It's the eyebrows, I think, that has people leaning that way. Today, I saw on X where it's a female, the women now. I listen to the women too. The women are saying they can see mascara on the person's eyes. Okay, so these are just things that are being said out there. And again, we don't know. We're just speculating like everybody else is. But I want you guys to put a 1 in the chat if you think that this person attempts to knock at the door, or put a 2 if you think not. Okay, so let's watch. Boop. And the camera. Okay, so let's go back. Put a 1 in the chat if you think the person is attempting to knock, and then they see the camera and decide to address the camera. Let's go. Boop. Camera. All right, so put a 1 in the chat. Let's see what everybody has to say. Okay, we get some 2s. Okay, Christina 2, Lisa 1, 2, Stella is a 3. Okay, mostly 2s. Okay, so people are not thinking that this is a knock. Okay, I respect that. Okay, James says he knocks to be let in. Pretty Tings thinks it's a knock. Okay, Psalm 91 says no. I'm just curious, what do you think that is? Let's take a moment really quick, guys. For those of you that put a 2, what do you think the person is attempting to do? Let's just see what you guys have to say about it. Let's take a moment. Tell us in the comments. Okay, I'll play it one more time for you, user. Okay, tell me if you think this is a knock. Most people don't think it's a knock. Boop. Camera. All right. Okay, so, all right. We get some more 1s. Okay, somebody's saying this is a Syria unaliver. Thank you, Danny, for your comment. Okay, so the person now deals with the camera. Okay, but I want to show you guys something that most people are not catching. All right. And it's going to take me a minute. You guys are going to have to bear with me tonight because it's hard to get the right frame. But I'm going to show you guys something. And I want to ask you guys to tell me what it is, okay? I want you to focus on the gun. Number 1, the person has a tattoo. You see the tattoo under the glove on this right hand? You see that tattoo? It looks like a cross, right? You see, if you look between the sleeve and the glove, you can see that there's a tattoo, okay? So for those of you that are saying, oh, it's such and such, it's Carlos or whatever, all this, the feds are on top of everything. They could probably read your mind at this point. But all they have to do is compare the this tattoo. I think this tattoo is very revealing. But anyway, I'm going to show you guys something here. Let's see if I can get it. It's kind of hard. Let's see. I want to show you, if you look in between the gun, you see in between the gun, there's like an electrical right there. You see it? You see in between the hands? There's a better way of getting it. I'm going to get it too. But you can see the person has on a tool belt. You know, most of the construction workers that do electrical, they wear a tool belt, and you could put in. It almost looks like there's a door where you could pick a lock, right? It looks like that's. Let me show you guys. I got to get this right. You guys are going to have to bear with me tonight on this here. Let me see. Okay, maybe it's right there. Right there. There we go. I have it. So look at this right there. Look by his hand. You see that tool belt? That's an electrical one because it's not one built for a hammer. I mean, it kind of looks like a cell phone inside of a pouch with a zipper. I looked at it that way. But look at that very well. A lot of people are not talking about that. But in between the gun and that hand, you see that tool belt? And over to the far left of that tool belt, it looks like you could have a tool there for maybe picking a lock or something like that. But that's something that I know somebody watching this probably can identify if you're in the construction work. Okay. So in your spare time, take some time. It almost looks like there's a cell phone inside of a pouch, but I don't know. And in fact, I haven't seen anybody on X talking about it or on social media. But what is that? It looks like there is a picking tool there, but I think that could be key here in figuring something out about this particular case. Okay, so we're going to go now. And how do I get back out of here? Okay, here we go. Okay, so we're going to keep that in mind. Here's your Ozark, they say, backpack. Okay, so the guy's looking down, or the girl, or whatever. They're looking for something to deal with the camera. Okay, you can see that. And you notice there's no blood. So for those of you who have the argument that she left earlier in the day going to her family's home and maybe she was bleeding, well, you can see that there's no blood when this person arrives. If we do have the right time, okay? If we do have the right time. So the person goes out. You can see the shadow. They cut on that bite light and they grab some sort of sage or flower, plant, something, right? Okay, now, here's the weird thing about it when it comes to the FBI. I'm pretty sure they had that footage. Why did they cut the footage and they don't show you the person walking back? That's where it gets kind of strange, right? They don't allow you to see the person walk back. Was it something they don't want you to actually know yet? You know, what's going on there? But that's strange to me. I'm going to show you this one more time. Notice how they just skip. The person is right here. They're about to make that step, boop. And now they're right there at the camera already. So now I'm going to show you the person has the bite light in their mouth, okay? See that? You see the eyes. You see the reflectors of the shoulder. You see the zipper coming down, right? I want to ask you guys a question. You'll have to be on your cell phone and you're going to have to really look at this really closely. But I'm going to ask you guys a question. You see behind the head, you see those lights behind this person's head. Where is the lighting coming from? You see this? I'm going to go back. Stay with me. You see the light? There's a light that's, I'm going to slow it right here. I missed it. Okay. Right there. You see that light? There was a light. Let me do it this way. Okay. Right there. You see that light? And you see the light? It even hits the ceiling. You see there? Now, this could be some reflective work from the camera, but it's the person's head actually blocks out this light, but you can see the light in the ceiling. Okay, now follow that light behind the person's head and then come around to this is the person's left hand, right? Watch this. Now you see this light coming down? What's causing that light? Is that light coming from the bite light in the mouth? Or if you watch behind the head, you see that light and then you see this light. Is there someone else walking up with another source of light? And that's why you're getting a different reflection here. So is this person just here to cover the light and then the next person engage, right? So let's just go back. You see the person, the camera skips, and here you can see the light on top of the head right there. I think that's where you first see light on the top of the head. You see light behind the head. See that right here? Let's see. It's hard to get these frames together. Right here. Right there. More light behind the head. See the light behind the head? And then you really see it right there in the ceiling. And then that light comes around here. So it's just something, I guess we'll never know, right? Okay, so we're going to keep going. Okay, so that's where basically we don't have any more intel in regards to this. This is just a replay of the video. And you can see the pouch. There's like a tool pouch there that nobody's talking about. That pouch might be very liberating as far as this case goes. I'll show you one other thing. People say it's a woman because notice the person's leg when they're bending over. Watch the leg. You know how women tend to have, I have to be careful with my words here, more constructive legs than men. So check out the legs. It's right there. So people are talking about that. I'm just telling you some of the things that we're seeing online. And notice the person stops and look back like they're intrigued by something. I guess we'll never know. So we're just watching it again. In your spare time, look at the lighting behind the head. You see all that? It goes fast, but if you take your time, you'll be able to see it. Now we're going to go and take a look. I believe the next frame is going to show you. This is the date from, this is the still frame, okay? You'll see the lighting in the background is much different than the other video. But you could actually see something behind the person's head. Maybe that's the hood. I'm not sure. Okay. But you notice the shoes. Remember last time I told you guys to look at the shoes? The other shoes had the sole as being black, but now you can see the top of these shoes are black. These are two-tone shoes, or it has some sort of stripe in it. So the shoes are different. Okay, so the sheriff is saying, well, you know, there's no proof that it's a different day. Okay, we can understand that. And the point of contention here is that the person doesn't have on the backpack. You don't see the gun at the midsection. Now I want to do this poll for, and ladies, don't hold this against me. This is for the fellas, okay, fellas. How many of you could actually run with a gun in your midsection? How many of you men, right, would be able to, if the heat is on, put a 1 in the chat if you think you can run with a gun in the middle of your crotch area, or put a 2 if you think it's no way possible. I mean, it could be possible, but less desired for the 2. Let's see what everybody has to say in regards to this. Fellas only. If you had to run, why would you wear it there? That's what we want to know. So this is the date that I was telling you from January the 11th. This is the frame or the photo from that day. So it looks like the person was doing a test run, but now we're starting to see that the agents are asking for let's see, not January the 11th, but January the 24th too, is from what I understand. Have you guys heard those dates? So for January the 24th, so technically, I guess this could be the day too. I guess we don't fully know, but this is some of the things that we're seeing and we're hearing online. I'm going to keep going. Okay, so you see the person has a gun in their midsection. Okay, so there you have it. This is probably one of the clearest photos that they have. A lot of people are saying that it looks that the mustache and the goatee are painted on or it looks fake. You know, that's some of the things that we hear in regards to this case too. Okay. All right. You see the shoes, right? The shoes are different. What's the likelihood that the person came on the same day, changed their shoes, and then put on a backpack and a gun? You could just think about that and come to your own conclusion. Also, one of the things that James had mentioned earlier, and also heard an FBI agent say, that typically the street gang members, they don't wear gun holsters, okay? And it's been confirmed that this gun holster came from Walmart, okay? So maybe a straight up rookie would say, okay, what do I need to pull this off? So, oh yeah, I need a holster. Yeah, I need a holster. You know what I mean? Or someone that was familiar with law enforcement, they're used to wearing a holster, right? So they may put the holster on and try to throw people off by wearing it in the midsection. You know, these are all questions that everybody have. Again, nobody really knows any solid answers when it comes to this particular case, but these are all of the concerns that people have expressed. We see it all over the place, especially online. Okay, so this photo right here, if you notice the person eyebrows, they seem to be trimmed. And so this is where people say this is a female. Okay. But then again, you see the mustache, you see a little bit of the goatee. It looks like the person, it could be just the photo, but it looks like the person almost has a tumor, not a tumor, but some sort of bulge right over this eye. But it just might be the way the light is hitting. I guess we'll never really know. Okay. Okay. Some people in the audience are saying maybe it's a fake weapon. Okay. I could understand that as well. Let's keep moving here. Again, it stands out that the eyebrows seems to be trimmed. But again, it's camera, it's in the middle of the night. You know, who really knows, right? Who really knows? Okay, let's keep moving, guys. So there you have it. That gives you, for those that have been requesting for me to go through the video again, I went through it in the member section, but I wanted to definitely, I always like to share what I can. But again, these are just ideas that people have that have been covering the case from different angles. You get some people, like even in the video tonight, they're pointing fingers and saying, well, you know, only the mainstream media can sit on top of the mountain and tell who ate the cucumbers, right? It's only the mainstream media. And when people go missing, here in New York, people go missing all the time, right? They're lucky if the mainstream media mentions it one time. There's a case of a elderly grandmother. Her poor granddaughter, around 16, 17, went missing out of Brooklyn. Never seen her since. Can't even get She would love to have anybody come out there and camp out in front of her home. Let me tell you, she would love to have all the media pull up on her house and camp out there and say, where's my granddaughter? She'd probably go out there and sit with them. So, you know, when you hear people saying, oh, you know, these guys are coming from all over the country, who do you think pays for that? Probably these guys, you know? Yeah, probably these guys. But sometimes the mainstream media, they get so caught up and they're pointing fingers, you know. That's why it's important not to give people reasons to point fingers, right? That's a whole different story because you give them something to stand on to say, oh, yeah, we can't have these guys because they do this, and that. Okay. So that's a big problem, but I'm not going to get too far to the left, right? But guess what? The mainstream media, they're saying, somebody has to say this, so I'm man enough to say it. I'll say it all day. Whatever come with it, I'll take the smoke and I'll give a little bit of smoke too. It's all right, right? But the mainstream media is saying, oh yeah, the YouTubers. Guess where the mainstream media is going? They're going to YouTube. So how can you? We're trying to find a lady, okay? Precious lady. And here we have the mainstream media saying, but you guys got to stay away for whatever reason. Now, there may be some valid reasons because of particular people, but I came with a press pass, okay? Mainstream media comes with a press pass. You guys see me at the courthouse, the federal courthouse, right? We're going into the building. I'm going to be in court this Thursday with Nicolas Maduro. When I pull up to the courthouse, number one, they all know me, so they're going to let me, get in. But again, I have my press pass. And guess what the big media outfits have? They have a press pass. They're not looking to say, well, oh, you went to Harvard. Oh, you went to Disney World school. No, it's your press pass. Because you know why? Because through your press pass, you are definitely certified because they do the homework on the individual. And then if you get out of pocket, guess what happens with the press pass? The police officers pulls it up and calls in and they can verify, hey, listen, is this a real press pass? This is the person's number. Okay, blase, blase. So you start to understand. So when you see people complaining about someone else, a lot of times it's because other people are getting more attention. And so let's be very clear and let's be really real about this if they want to call out individuals. Now, the reason why I can say something is because my phone was used. You could see when they were talking about it, my phone was on the tripod. You saw other YouTubers out there as well, right? And they're saying, oh, these people are causing hysteria. You know what I mean? So insane to me. But at any rate, enough of that. It was in the video, so I'm definitely going to say something about it. So, yeah, that's right. It's a lot to do with jealousy and everything else. But everybody, they do it in moderation. A lot of people, especially when I went out to Nancy Guthrie, which I'm dressed the same way all the time, but some of the reporters that actually I did a hit piece on another YouTuber said to me, well, at least you're dressed nice. Yeah, I'm dressed 1,000 times better than you in your mainstream media, but you're making hit pieces on guys who are just trying to find their lane and report and trying to help. I mean, listen, some of these guys are out there 15 hours a day and they have 30,000 people on their stream. Think about that. One guy has 30,000 people. And guess what these people are doing? They're not watching him because they like his red shirt. They're trying to find Nancy. So now you got 30,000 people, and some of the people that are actually following his stream or my stream or whoever, they're actually streaming to their crowd. So who knows how many people are actually tuning in just from the streamers? And do you think these people would know about Nancy Guthrie? Right? How many of you guys watch the local news in Tucson, Arizona? How many of you have heard of Tucson, Arizona? Okay. So YouTubers have a very valuable lane as long as they do so in moderation, not disrespecting people. I often tell the guys, make sure you look the part, don't give people a reason for concern. So that's a whole different problem now because people are actually going out of their way to, you see, you guys probably saw the two individuals that showed up wearing leather. So they didn't get pulled definitely into mainstream media. They were nicely pushed into the slot of independent media. So now that's a strike, okay? So now you're going to hear about that in the news. I've read so many articles. I was featured. I did my interview. They agreed that the interview that I did would be peaceable, right? It wouldn't be a hit piece, but it was slanted. Let's talk about it. I didn't know it was going to go they turned it into this whole war against YouTubers and the mainstream media. When I was having my interview, I stood up there and I thought I was being interviewed as to why I came to support Nancy. I didn't know I was walking into somebody else's fight with the mainstream media. But that's just how it goes. I'm on the streets of New York and I'm always approached by somebody trying to film or whatever. And sometimes when people approach you, you don't know what they're coming for, you know? So there's a bit of caution that comes with doing this type of broadcasting or what have you. But you won't hear people talk about that, you know? So I felt the need to talk about this tonight because I wasn't prepared to see that. So if they went there, then I have the right to go there too. It is what it is, folks. But hopefully it's just a matter of getting used to it because in New York, I think for Sean Diddy Combs, there was probably at least at times over 100 people coming from all over the world. And they were independent streamers, YouTubers, just trying to cover the story. So people wish they could get that kind of people, that many people on the story. Or that grandmother in Brooklyn, she wished she could have 100 people out there trying to find her daughter, her granddaughter. And think about all the people in our country that have this go on every day and they out there in the country in the sticks. And imagine if something happened and you have a guy rolling up from New York wearing a suit and you got a guy coming out of Florida with 30,000 people on his stream. My God, what a big difference, right? So we really need to get our priorities together because it's very important and somebody needs to talk about it. I don't think they expected me to show up and talk about it because I was very real. And anybody in the mainstream media that wanted to talk about it, I was so ready. I did an interview with everybody who wanted to do it, whether good or bad. You know, that's just how it's going to be. You know, so I just wanted to give you guys this inside information because that's a key part of what this whole thing is about. And it's my opinion, right? My opinion for Nancy Guthrie, if they could have had another 1,000 people out there, I'd say line the road up. And you would have had another 1,000 people out there searching, looking for. Every hand helps, right? Everybody has a part to play. The more, the merrier in these type of situations. Not everybody's going to agree with it, but that's just how the story goes. So I just want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We covered a lot of ground in regards to Nancy Guthrie. I hope that Nancy can come home. Miracles do happen. And I think the family would love to have a miracle in this particular case. And I still have New York Post up. I'm giving them too much credit. Sorry about that, guys. So, you know, more hands in pretty much every case makes the load lighter. Okay. Now I'm going to get into another subject matter here. I just need 2 seconds. Tomorrow is Sunday, so I'm going to start preaching tonight. Look at your neighbor and say, Pastor, preach on. Getting in trouble. So I want to talk about something that's been troubling me for quite some time. And I know it's probably going to be looked at with a lot of scrutiny, but it's okay. I might lose a few people along the way, but that's all right too. Hold on to your belt. So we have this thing that I have been wanting to talk about for some time. So I have 300 and some people here tonight. I figured let's get to it. I covered Sean Diddy Combs' case, okay? That case involved a lot of abuse, especially when it comes to women. And here at this channel, we don't like that, right? We don't like any abuse of women and children. And we don't even want to talk about the things that should happen to people that do that, okay? Yeah, especially if you go messing around with somebody's family members and so forth, okay? Now, when it comes to Sean Diddy Combs, I saw Cassie come on the stand and she talked about, well, we saw the video right on day one. And the prosecution, they kept showing, now this is all going to tie to Nancy Guthrie, so you guys hang on with me. I'm going to tell you guys a big story, and you're going to just have to catch it, okay? They showed the video of her being kicked on the ground. Oh my God. And then the prosecutors say, oh, play it back. And then you see Diddy coming through. Also saw Diddy apologize. Let's make it clear. This is not a hit piece on Diddy. These were women in his life that he had a relationship with for the most part. Each of them had a monetary gain and so forth. And you could say that this is all tied together. It's a part of love. I grew up in the circumstances where I saw individuals behaving that way. And I knew exactly I didn't want to go there. You know, my grandmother would always say, you know, men, you don't put your hand on women. Okay. That's very clear. Okay. So Sean Diddy Combs. Then we get this case, the Alexander brothers, which they were just found guilty. And they were just finding girls on the internet randomly through these dating sites. So now this is a little bit different. It's all bad, but I'm just, you guys, this is a high level conversation. You can't just hear me a little bit and then start saying, oh my God, you said this. No, you got to pay attention and really stick with me. I'm trying to make a serious point. So it's all bad. What Diddy did is bad. Diddy apologized. He's being rehabilitated. I'm going to cover his appeal in a couple weeks. Okay. The Alexander brothers were meeting, and you need to hear this because if you have daughters, girls in your family, we all came from a woman, so you should be paying attention, okay? They were meeting girls on the internet. One girl, I saw her come in. The first girl I saw, she came out of Chicago on a dating site. These guys have reputation. Oh, they're millionaires. They're millionaires. Oh my God. They fly the girls out. She's partying, having the time of her life. There's so many girls there. They're being put on a yacht and they get all the drinks, anything money could buy, right? Well, one of the guys gives her a drink and she starts to lose her boundaries. Stranger girl, she just been in town. Maybe this is her second day. Next thing you know, she's being abused. Okay. So you guys get the picture. Okay. So these are terrible things that we hear in court. And then on top of that, we hear about all of these terrible situations. So we have physical abuse, we have also SA, all of it is atrocious, right? But here's the thing. When it comes to people's lives, in court, when it came to Sean Diddy Combs, I saw women come in and they told their story. And my goodness, I felt like they were telling the truth. On the same note, I saw females come into court and lie on Diddy. And it's proven, okay? Under cross-examination, they were being torn apart. Okay? I was just in court again in regards to a man alleging things about Diddy. And then you get a chance to hear where these people, and I'm not just talking about Diddy, I'm just saying in these cases, when people have a lot of money, individuals come forward and they fabricate. So here's my point. When things happen, at least if we're going to be reporting on it, because everybody wants to go to YouTube and get clicks, okay? Oh my God, he did this and they did that and she did this and he's a liar, she's a liar. It's better to wait for these type of situations to go through court before you bother reporting on it. Because a lot of times, half what they say, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. So it's very important to wait to report about a lot of this and see what happens in court, because you might be telling a particular narrative and then you get to court and you find out, well, wait a minute, they're both lying, one is lying, one, all of these different variables in a case. And that's my main point when it comes to a lot of these cases. Even though Diddy did different things, I try to make sure that when I'm reporting about it, that I'm giving you something that you could pretty much hang your hat on as close to I can present, but there's still the human error. We're taking notes in court. We might get something wrong. We might mishear something. Then there's so many different layers where the lady is lying, the man is lying, the lawyers are lying. When I covered the Alexander brothers, they have this thing called I can't think of the word they use, but a lot of times when something happens, let's say 10 years ago or so, and let's say the lawyer now goes and they find a person, the lawyer feeds the individual information, and now they think it really happened. The lawyer's giving people ideas so much so, well, in order for you to get this much money out of Diddy, we're going to have to cross this threshold. So you would have to say that Diddy did that, and I'm using him as an example. Maybe I don't want to do that. Let's say Tom. You're going to have to say Tom did this to you if you want to get 30 million. And so the person, even though the person did this to him, now they add to the story because they're trying to get the 30 million. Okay. And that's not particular to any case. I'm just trying to give you an example of why it's important, because a lot of times we see these examples of things happening. People are putting up fake documents, or maybe it's true documents. But how do you know before it actually goes to court? And even after it goes to court, I see people come in and they perjure all the time. And if the prosecution is trying to get the defendant, the prosecution won't really, in some cases that I've seen, they don't really hold the person to their perjured situation. And I'm pretty sure James could talk about this. He's an attorney right in New York. I'm pretty sure he'll vouch for what I'm saying. So that's why I say all of that to say with Nancy Guthrie, I try to go out and I give you guys facts about what I know, but I always tell you guys these are speculations. This is what people are saying. We don't know because the sheriff is telling people, even in this particular case, while I was out there, Donald Trump, I played you guys a video. He said we need to move on from this case. Okay. The president said, start reporting on something else. And I showed you how people started leaving that day from mainstream media. Okay. Also, the sheriff was told specific individuals do not go out there searching for Nancy Guthrie, especially on private property. And you need a permit. So they were making it very difficult to go out and search. And keep in mind, when I was out there covering the story, I had to be very careful because you saw what happened to Don Lemon, right? You guys know what happened to Don Lemon. Now, even if he doesn't get any time, look at how much he's going to pay for. It's going to be millions just to be paid to have the lawyer so he doesn't go to jail. So when you have the sheriff saying, don't go search, what is, like, the lady's still missing, right? Huh, boss? It's like Mayberry. Huh, Andy? It's the weirdest thing you'll ever see in life. Don't go searching. Did you find her? You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm not challenging that. It is what it is, but it was strange. It was very peculiar, I must say. Guys, hit the like button, share, subscribe. Thank you very much for all the participation tonight. But anyway, I said all of this to say I'm trying to make this point. At Watching the World, when allegations come out, you won't see me covering stuff. I'll pull up in the courthouse and I'll tell you guys at the best of my ability what came out in court. Okay? Because now we have, on top of everything else, we have AI in the mix too. And I see it with Nancy Guthrie's case. I see it in documentation. And people would do anything to get likes. They'll sell their rear end to get likes. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but that's the truth. People will do anything just to make $1 because, number one, gas prices are going up. So these clicks are going to get out of control and people are going to do some strange things for some clicks. You ever heard them say you do something strange for a piece of change? A lot of that is going to go into the click section. Believe that. People are going to be out of their mind. They're just making up random crazy stuff. And you know what? People believe it. I don't care what you put out there. People are going to believe it. I guarantee you this. I could go tomorrow and start a religion about a spaghetti god in the sky. And as long as I document it well, and maybe I can make up a few decent pictures, I guarantee you I'm going to find somebody that's going to start believing in a spaghetti god. That's where we are in life. People don't need a lot to believe because most people just want to find a place to belong in the first place. And that's the big problem here. So, yeah, we're going to go tomorrow. We're going to meet and talk about this spaghetti god, and people are going to show up and they'll pray to a spaghetti god. I'm telling you what I know. People believe and it's like the phenomenon of what people will believe without having any type of proof. So it's very dangerous to just harp on things and destroy people's lives. And then you find out, imagine like in Diddy's case, um, one of the girls said Diddy had her hanging off of the balcony. Under cross examination, attorney Westmoreland really tore her a new one. So imagine if you had your heart and soul set on believing that that actually happened. And then you get a person, it didn't happen in Diddy's case. Imagine they get a person in there that's a specialist and they show you what it takes to take a woman and hang her off the balcony and how strong you have to be to lean over the balcony and have this girl. And then the girl said, I was hanging there for 10 minutes. Who could hang you off a balcony? And I'm going to take this off of Diddy, I'm saying. But all of this, you're talking about all these points before it goes to court, only to get to court to find out it may not even happen at all. You see, so that's the wisdom in trying to cover cases, have some decency about yourself, look good, show up, try to act intelligent. Don't do it just for the money, but do it for a greater cause. You know, that's what this is about. I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight, but I had to get that one out because I see so much chaos today. And it's amazing when the coyotes come out. I mean, the coyotes come out like with a vengeance. Like you didn't even know people existed. Then all of a sudden something happens. Nobody has any facts. No facts. People are making up facts. And people will put so much stock into a random page on X. All a guy has to do is just post something and make it look like court documents or whatever else. And people just run with it. They don't even care. They don't even care if it happened or not. And this is how bad of a situation we are in. But keep in mind that we're affecting people's lives. And if you're doing it, and I get it, not everybody do it for the right reason. And even after hearing or knowing the right way, people are still going to do what they want to do. But I just wanted to answer some of the people that keep asking me. I just want you to know I'm not covering something until it actually goes to court. Then I'll tell you what I've learned from the court case. And then still, I've learned from Diddy case, I don't even want to give my opinion. Because as soon as I give my opinion, you know the rest of the story. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys are so amazing. For what it's worth, these are my thoughts. I'm entitled to my thoughts. Anybody that don't like it, then God bless America, home of the brave. All right? Right now, we're in war. They don't want to call it a war. I'm really troubled. I want to get, should I go on another tangent? What time is it? Okay, I'll take 2 more minutes. This guy that came out, you got to check him out. His name is Joe Kent, right? This is a whole nother subject matter. I just need one more water. You may not catch me like this again. So I got to get it out tonight. Joe Kent, as of 3 days ago, he worked in the highest office doing counterterrorism, okay? He resigned because he said the government is lying to us. Can you imagine that? And this guy has a long track record. What does that mean? He's saying that this war is an Israel war, not America. We shouldn't be fighting it, sending troops off. What does this guy know that he would put his life on the line to go and come out and tell the American people his viewpoint about this war to this measure? You really have to pay attention to what this guy is saying. Okay? Now, some of us, if we are committed to be a Democrat, if something does not line with the Democratic dogma, oh, I don't want to see it. Don't tell me, Bob. This is the mentality we have. Or if we are diehard Republican, oh my God, oh, don't listen to him, blah, 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 blah. You know, the guy has been a Republican, right? He was a Democrat. He switched up, but whatever. You have to check out his history. But I want you guys to really pay attention and just ask the question, why is the guy doing this? And why is they saying he might be getting locked up and all of these other things? They're looking at what charges they can give him. These things are very important because oftentimes when you have a person that is deeply entrenched in a situation, for me, it might be religion. For you, it might be something else, right? Maybe a diehard Cowboys fan. And then one day you just wake up and say, just like me, you know what? These no good Cowboys are never going to win the Super Bowl. Let me switch up and go root for somebody else, right? So I say all of that to say you really want to pay attention to Joe Kent, whether you want to believe what he's saying or not. I think is very instrumental because he comes across as a guy. I mean, listen, this guy is saying that Israel. Now, you guys, a lot of us, when it comes to Candace Owens, we have her in a category to where it's like, Candace, can I believe you? Candace, I like you, but can I, what, Candace? Okay, so this guy's coming out backing up what Candace Owens is saying that Israel was tied to Charlie Kirk. What does that mean? Geez, Donald Trump said a couple weeks ago, he said that Iran tried to take me out twice. He said, but I got them on the first go. Okay, so in my mind, because I follow everything Donald Trump does, he's the president. I want to know every move he makes because I have a lot of decisions to make about this life, right? Okay, so when Donald Trump said that, I said, what? Is Donald Trump saying that when he was shot in the ear, that Iran had something to do with that? Remember the young man that they unalived on the rooftop? You mean he was somehow tied to Iran? Well, guess what? This guy, Joe Kent, came out, and I broadcasted it the other day. He's saying that Iran had something to do with Butler. And when they were asking questions at the highest level, they were being told, don't ask no questions, Jack. What does this mean? You see what I'm saying? Even to this day, when it came to Edward Snowden, right? Obama was on his neck. He better not ever come back to the United States, right? But you never hear anybody saying he was wrong. And then we started to see a lot of things that he put us on to years ago was actually true about how they surveil you and they probably know what you're thinking. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm just saying you should really take some time and really understand what's happening. A lot of people don't really pay attention to what's happening into Iran until something pops off in New York City and the London Bridge starts tumbling down. Then they want to know, oh, what was happening? Oh my goodness. I see it in court, right? Luigi Mangione, nobody's paying attention to his case. I've been going to court. People are not paying attention because they say, well, we have a video. It shows him in the streets of New York. He shoots Brian Thompson right on the street. That's an open and shut case. But guess what? This is how we operate. We're so busy swiping for China, I call it. Just swiping TikTok and all this. Oh, okay. Oh, I look taking pictures. Ooh, on vacation, taking pictures. This is how we operate. Then we'll hear one day that Luigi Mangione not guilty. People will go crazy because we're reactors. They don't pay attention until something goes wrong or goes contrary to what they believe. And so that's what we're starting to see. I'm saying, please pay attention to what's happening in the world because we really haven't seen this before. And the president of the United States is saying that right now, he's saying we're going on an excursion, right? You're on vacation, right? I went to Rome and I went on an excursion. So for that day, I'm not in Rome. I'm going to Pompeii. Okay, I went to Pompeii excursion. The president of the United States is saying that right now we're just on an excursion because the stock market was good. The president was saying your 401k is like never before. All that's true. The stock market has been up tremendously within the last 2 months or so. He's right on the point with that. But now it's tanking. Gas prices were coming down. I wouldn't lead you astray. I cover this stuff. Prices were coming down. Now they're going up and the stock market is going down. If the president is right, then okay, at least for the American, you'll see a difference. You'll take a hit for a little bit. But if Iran keeps going on, then we might be in for some serious trouble. You don't want to get 6 months into serious trouble and then start figuring out a strategy. You're already too late. But we have to break away from this philosophy of just swiping, taking pictures, texting it over, and not paying attention to where you're going. Today, when I was out driving, I noticed I counted about 4 people just texting away, while driving. People walking, texting, head down. Guy almost walked into me in Target. Then, when he almost hit me, he looked at me like I'm the person in wrong, and you're the one texting while walking. You see what I'm saying? We're so consumed, we're not paying attention. So let's do better, folks. Let's figure out a better way. And I regret to see some of the things that are happening that are affecting my community, especially when it comes to broadcasting independently. But I will say that we have to give it time to see how things materialize. But I'm not going to be the one to report gossip. Now, we might cover, when I have some of my guests on, we might cover some of the gossip that's in the news, okay? But we're just reporting to you for the morning show. Oh yeah, Rihanna. Some chick was in her house. We don't want to say the words, okay? Or we might say something loosely about let's see, Chris Brown, his case he has or something that might be on the gossip side. But just to go out here and start posting on somebody going through a situation when I don't have the real facts, I stay away from that, right? I think that that's the way that we should operate if we want to maintain some sense of dignity about what we're talking about. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I'm sorry I took you guys on these journeys, but somebody had to do it, and it might as well be me. Have a good night. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, sleep well tonight, and don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night. Thank you.
Different voices, but the same song. Loving a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.